I hit record.
I have now hit the recording button.
All right, I see the WAV moving. We're WAVing.
Hit it.
All right. We got 2 people watching so far, so let's get started.
Go away, 2 people.
I was just waiting for you to say that.
Okay.
It's Thursday, May 20th, 2021. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight we are talking about things that grind or grease or possibly have no particular impact on our gears. All right. I actually got an opening bit that I can start with.
I got no even.
I'll start with mine, then you can do yours. How's that?
I was just going to say warm today.
Huh? You can start with that. That's a classic.
I think that works better if I say it first.
All right, you start with that, then I'll do my thing.
Okay. We're good?
Anytime.
Warm today.
Woman. It is.
No, it's not woman.
The problem is we used to do that earnestly and say it was warm today when it was warm and do the other bit when it was cold. But then we inverted it and did the opposite for years. So now I'm never sure which one to...
I don't remember ever doing the opposite. All I'm saying is it's actually finally warm.
We started...
It's pretty
I want to
great.
say around 2008 or 2009. For years, we would be like, warm today when it was way too cold. And then that was our shtick.
I don't remember that shtick. I just remember being honest with the weather.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's warm enough. I had to turn on the air conditioning because I can't have the windows open because they're working on the facade of the building and there's so much dust out there. It's a problem.
Oh, okay.
And it's not just working on the...
I haven't had to turn the AC on yet, but I did turn on the fan briefly.
Oh, I have the windows open all the time, except during the day.
I've had windows open, but the construction is far enough away that it's not an issue.
Oh, so I realize now how bad the facade on this building is and why they're redoing it. The city came down to
the building.
Yeah, they built it shittily. They're replacing huge, a scary percentage of the bricks in the facade.
Okay.
They took 50 bricks out of the facade just around our balcony alone. And there's a giant pile of bricks and they're masonerying them back in one by one.
So I guess the bricks aren't the problem, but someone did shitty masonry?
Yep, the bricks in the facade were put in so shittily that they were all a serious risk of injury or death to anyone walking under our building.
So I guess whoever did that original masonry, are they going to get sued or insurance or what?
I have no idea.
I have no love for the landlord. If they have to pay, they own a building, they can certainly afford it. But if it was, if I paid to have something done and it was done so shittily that it needed to be redone way ahead of schedule, I would want,
Well, you know what? Yeah, that's the classic situation of someone can be bad, but also be wronged and still deserves justice for when they were wronged.
Yeah,
Within bounds. There's certain people who don't deserve justice, but that's a whole separate conversation.
I could just be like, look, under normal circumstances, this would require some justice action, but you've done injustices, so we're just going to say it cancels out. This will be your consequence to that other thing you did.
A peaceful skeleton stole a bunch of stuff from your company, but your company was exploiting workers so bad that you can't get anything back from them.
Yeah, it's like, this guy screwed you over building your building shittily, but you're an evil landlord, so I don't care.
Eat it.
Fucked.
So last weekend, we went up hiking. Or 2 weekends ago. Oh, God, it was 2 weekends ago. Last weekend, we went biking because it was finally warm enough. Yep, I saw you bike, too. You went up and did the Tarrytown Bridge. We went up to Briarcliff Manor and then just turned around and came back on the South County.
Mm-hmm.
Though, when we went hiking the other day, we went up to somewhere different. We wanted to do some mountain climbing. So we went up to the corner of Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New York. There's a little corner there where you just drive, even just driving past, you go over all those borders a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of near where the Harlan Valley Railroad usually is. And
I know where that is.
We hiked this mountain, and on the way home, we were like, why don't we stop at the Cafe Maya and get takeout and eat that in the car and go home? Yeah. So we stop at the original Cafe Maya, the one on 9D, not the one on in Fishkill.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nobody eating outside. It's empty. So we actually sit down outside, and they turn on a heat lamp, and we're just by ourselves. And Emily got a Verano. I got the enchilada suizas. It was a really good time. The waiter was talking to us and being extra friendly. He had a mask on. We had a mask and we were talking to him, but he was being extra friendly and we were just chatting. And then he's like, I feel like I know you. And we start talking. Remember when the Cafe Maya opened in Beacon and then eventually failed?
Yeah.
So we were some of the only people that ate there, apparently. Like, it didn't go well at all. So he remembered us because he was the only waiter they ever had. He was the waiter at the Cafe Maya on Main Street in Beacon. He recognized us, me and Emily.
I mean, that's cool, but also somebody was that's their job for 10 years. It's like, okay.
I get the impression that place actually pays them pretty well.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, kind of like the Baroness.
I hope after 10 years, though, that guy's like just a manager and was doing waiting because there was, slow times.
Well, also, let's put our communist hat on. The real answer is there should be dignity in all labor, and it should be totally expected and fine for most people to have a fairly, quote, easy job their whole life. No one should have to try to get promoted into a, quote, real job because there's no such thing as a real job.
I agree 100%, but at the same time...
under current late capitalism, that implies that dude probably is not on a great trajectory.
Right, but also, even if you do have, dignity and good compensation in all labor, I still feel like, if you've been, waiting tables for 10 plus years and you're just sort of still doing that, it's like...
I've been product managing for 15 years.
Right, but it's like you must freaking really love that spot, right?
I don't love product managing.
Right. Exactly.
The problem is capitalism.
Anyway,
that was just a surprising moment. So we actually talked to him a bit about that Cafe Maya and how they thought it'd do so well. And the problem was all the people in Beacon. Most of the people who lived in Beacon wouldn't eat at the restaurants on Main Street. They'd all drive to the places in Fishkill.
Well.
Like the people who actually walked to Main Street and like ate in those places, relatively small group of people. And on weekdays, fucking nobody eats on Main Street.
Well.
So they tried really hard on that place. We did. We were like the only ones.
I think they also might have tried too soon. I've heard that Beacon Main Street has, only continued to advance.
It has. There a few places opened that were definitely like over fancy and catered to out of towners, like people who drive up from New York City and are only there on the weekends and were overpriced food. But the restaurant scene in Beacon is pretty fucking awesome. We used to go up there a lot before COVID, and we plan to go up there a lot after COVID.
Their Wappingers location is still open. So.
Yeah. But the problem is we went up to Beacon a bunch of times on weekends because we were hiking up there like in the previous years. And it was awesome. Like it felt like Main Street was crowded. There were people everywhere, like walking around, just tons of people. Like it felt really bustling. Emily went back up like during that period when we were like, if we had to ever move up to Beacon, it wouldn't be so bad. She went up on like a Wednesday to take care of something, like took the Metro North without me. Completely dead. There are only people there on the weekends.
Yeah, that's, there are people who are working.
So, yep. Anyway, in some news, New York just announced, and other states have done this. It's I have a nuanced take on this, and you might be surprised that I'm totally okay with this. New York State is now going to have a Vax and Scratch program where if you are not vaccinated against COVID currently, and during the time range they're doing this, you go and get the vaccine, they will give you for free a $20 lottery ticket for the upcoming $5 million mega multiplier lottery.
Okay.
Some other state did this recently.
Why don't remember. Just give people, if it's a $20 scratch off, why not just give people $20?
Yeah, because people are bad at statistics, and I feel like the kind
I'd rather have the $20.
I would argue the kind of person who needs to be given an incentive to go get a vaccine when it is free and easy to get one, and wouldn't get a vaccine without that incentive, probably more swayed by the lottery ticket than $20.
Maybe, yeah.
But other states did this too. Like this was a thing. And on one hand, I am totally okay with this because the reality is humans are, let's just charitably say, complex. And anything that gets people to get the shot is okay in my book at this point. Like just get people to get the shot. But so like I'm totally okay if this stuff works. And the evidence shows that other states that have done similar programs had massive upticks in people getting the vaccine. So I am 100% good with this. I'm not mad about it. I'm just disappointed in it because I hate that this works. on people. Like, I hate it because it doesn't work on me. Like, I know it doesn't, but also I'm weird and prickly about things like advertising and extra skeptical. Like, any email I get that's even like slightly off, I assume is malicious and delete. Like, that's the kind of life I live. If I see an ad, I assume the thing is bad until proven otherwise. I know you're like that too. It's just really sad to me how effective these lottery incentives for vaccinations are. But if they work, do it. Do whatever works. That's how public health policy should be enacted.
Right. I mean, we know that there are certain psychological tricks that work, on most people, even on people who are aware of them occasionally, right? It's
like I can get tricked. An ad might sneak in and trick me. Like,
yeah, it happens. And the problem is it's like tricking someone in and of itself. You could argue that it does harm someone in that you have taken away their agency or some aspect of it and manipulated them. And that in and of itself is a moral violation of the person's free will, if such a thing exists.
It is perhaps a use of weapons.
Yes, perhaps. But if you are manipulating someone into doing something that is perhaps empirically beneficial to themselves, others, society, the world, the universe, right? And there wasn't some other way to do it that was, say, less harmful, right? It's like, okay, is it, this person refuses to willingly get the vaccine. I will attempt the moral path of convincing them just normally. They refuse still. Okay, what is more harmful? A, let them go about their business unvaccinated. B, trick them with a lottery ticket kind of situation. B, hold them down and inject them with physical force.
I'm good with B2 that you just raised.
Right, well, sure. But you get the idea. It's like, you don't really want to go.
Yeah, that's exactly my take on this kind of thing too. Like, these psychological tricks are going to be used for evil no matter what. We do have to minimize the uses for evil, but the reality is it will be used for evil. Look at bad memes, misinformation campaigns, like people who watch Fox News and literally believe objectively false things.
Right.
But if these things exist anyway and will be used for evil, then do we not have a moral obligation to use them for good wherever possible?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's the old saying, do the ends justify the means, right? And obviously the answer is...
Well, it depends on the ends and the means.
Right, of course. The answer is, the saying is the ends don't justify the means. And I think people take that as like just this absolute thing, which is like, and they think of like some extreme circumstance, right? It's like, you just... we could get rid of, say, I don't know,
tax filing. We could literally just get rid of that whole industry and have the government auto-file taxes for people. That would be a good ends.
Yep. We can achieve that by murdering every single person at the TurboTax Corporation, right?
Well, we could also achieve it.
Would not justify those means would not justify that end. Right?
Yep, but even imagine this. The means would be the IRS just provides it for free as a service. Well, the end, however, now includes a whole ton of people don't have jobs anymore.
Well, but that's an ends. That's not a means. That has nothing to do with ends justifying the means. Those are ends. Those are additional ends. Those aren't means.
Arguably, well, one could argue that shutting down the industry is also the means to the end of people don't have to do taxes anymore.
I mean, we're getting into some semantic. I think people get the idea that, it's like, yeah, there are cases where ends don't justify means, but it's like, if your means is trick someone and the end is, end a pandemic, you could justify that, that end could justify that means.
It definitely could.
So
in some other news, I know we talked about this before. We thought that the Peppermint Butler Adventure Time was going to come next, as most people did. We learned that, in fact, it's the one about Finn and Jake. Neither of us have seen it yet, but people are talking about it already.
All I've really seen, is not that I care about spoilers, but other people do care about spoilers, so they haven't posted any, so I haven't seen any. And not that I'm looking for them either. I'm just going to watch it probably pretty soon.
Yep.
But yeah, what I've seen is a lot of people have saying like, wow, that hits hard. Wow, it is serious. Wow, I shouldn't have watched that to start my day.
AV Club's headline said it best. Finn and Jake are back, and they've brought Adventure Time's darker impulses with them.
Yeah, so that gives me the impression that maybe they should have done this one last, unless the P-Butts one got something going on.
Yeah. Maybe they don't want to end on this note. Or maybe they'll keep making these forever.
Maybe that's just how things worked out. But yeah, apparently this really hits hard. So
the thing is, Adventure Time as a whole hit pretty hard in a lot of different ways.
No, apparently this is even more.
And I want that because Adventure Time pushed boundaries in all sorts of different directions. So fuck me up with the feels, Adventure Time. I'm ready.
You're gonna get fucked up. That's what's gonna happen.
I think I'm excited enough about this to where, even though we're only about halfway through the last season of Castle Vassal, I think we're going to watch this first.
Mm.
I did see one spoiler. A random YouTube video for Castlevania got recommended to me, and the title was So-and-so's Death in Castlevania. And it had a thumbnail that was like, well, that's how that character goes down. Thank you, Internet. I guess I kind of expected...
wonder who it could be.
Well... Knowing the Castlevania lore excludes several characters.
Indeed.
Unless they break from the Castlevania lore.
I mean, I'm willing to put a small amount of money down.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that separately when we actually talk about that show ending. I think it'll deserve a final thoughts episode. Like a review of the entire thing.
It's not really going to end. They're going to make another thing.
Another thing, though, they've said it's going to be different characters and possibly in a different part of the timeline.
I think it'll be a different Belmont, right? This one is, which Belmont are we dealing with in the current one? Trevor?
Yeah, the next, so they could go Richter. They could go Simon, do a precursor story.
There's plenty of Belmonts that they can do, right?
I'd like to see a Simon one.
I mean, yeah.
Duh. Put a meta moment marker for this and things of the day.
What was my thing of the day again?
But anyway, things of the day. What do you got?
So this article is from like late April here. And what it is, it's sort of like this, I guess a piece in this magazine about this guy and his job, or at least his job was, to be the money collecting, counting person for the MTA, right, in New York. So basically all the subway bus money, all the cash, right? It has, you put quarters in the bus. You can still do that, even though they take you can swipe your phone in the bus now, but you can still put quarters in. And if on the subway, it's like, yeah, you got the Metro card, but then they got the Metro card machines. You're shitting cash into those things, and then Metro card come out. Or you go up to the window, the window, you give them cash. They give you Metro cards, right? All that cash goes to one place eventually, where it is counted and organized and such and such. And this person was the boss of that place. And its security and its operations for a very long time. And it's pretty close to where we live. It's we don't know the exact location because it's semi-secret, but it's mixed in amongst the bakeries and other warehouses and stuff over there, garages. And it's really fascinating how that kind of place operates. And it seems, like it would be very lucrative if you could heist it, but also next to impossible to heist it.
Well, it would be easier to heist materially than Fort Knox, just because cash is way lighter than gold.
Sure. Fort Knox, I heard, doesn't have that much gold. It's really the Federal Reserve you want to get to, which is also nearby in a basement. Good luck getting there.
It's just, anytime
really
there's a story like
article.
this, I always just think back to, why didn't fucking anyone in high school actually tell me about the kinds of jobs that existed in the real world?
Well, because there's these jobs that are like this, that are like these 1 in a million jobs, right? It's like this. It's a unique position. It's not like, oh, you could be a cash room runner. It's like that's not a common job.
Well, they're positions that usually come from someone working in an industry and slowly specializing while also rising in the ranks within that industry.
there's only so many organizations that have a need for such a person, and that person usually gets in that position because they've done like another thing. Like I remember I was listening to a podcast about the guy who was a lawyer, and there was like the 9/11 fund to sort of give money to all the people who suffered in 9/11, right, to distribute money, right? So this lawyer was just like managing this benefit fund, right? How did that lawyer get that job? Apparently, a long time ago, there was some other similar fund. The guy was just, like a early in his career kind of lawyer, and he just happened to get, a job, managing one of those sorts of funds, and is just now by circumstance these like premier expert on running those sorts of things, right? It's not so like if you go to law school, there probably isn't even like, I can't imagine maybe there's a class on something like that, right? Because it's such a specialized thing. How many of those freaking things are there, right? Not too many. It's, there aren't room for that many specialists, but just being in the right place at the right time, and have it is just how you again end up in something. And then if there's just the right number of things in that category, well, now that's your life now.
It's kind of funny because that's sort of how I, like on a low-key way, how I ended up doing the kind of work that I do is I learned this one protocol, and slowly that just kept worming its way into my life and giving me like different opportunities and funneling me.
You didn't seek it out. You didn't know about it in advance. You were just in a spot. You had to learn it. You were in a spot doing a thing. You had to learn a thing. And then because you learned the thing, then not too many other people knew. Well, now that's your thing.
Yep. Right? I'm trying to get away from that being my thing, but it's hard because I have a scarily deep reputation. Strangers I meet in my industry will be like, "Oh, you're the fix guy. I know you. I've heard of you."
Okay.
No one remembers me as the clock setting guy, at least. I wormed my way out of that one.
You should go back to clock setting. It's more fun.
It's different now. I actually don't know the state of the art.
Me either.
Yeah, it's not NTP though. I'll tell you that.
You could figure it out, I'm sure.
Well, I have people who do that for me. I could go ask my people. Anyway, so my thing of the day could possibly, well, probably not, because I doubt there's a lot of glass in this place, but it could plausibly, if there was a glass security wall of some kind, be a way to perhaps liberate some of that coin. So I never heard of this term before, but I learned it while I was literally looking up the details of this thing of the day. There's a whole Wikipedia article on the concept of ninja rocks.
That sounds like a kid's show.
Yep. It's also, I guess these existed before, but they started being called ninja rocks in the 90s, probably because America was obsessed with ninjas for some reason during that era. Like that was the thing. Late 80s through like late 90s, like there's a lot of ninja stuff in pop culture. So
we should bring the ninjas back.
A ninja rock is a small, incredibly light thing, usually made of like alumina, and it looks like a really tiny pebble. Like they're so small and light, you'll be shocked that this would work. But if you throw them at a piece of glass, especially safety glass, tempered glass, it'll just fucking shatter. Mm-hmm. Like a pebble wouldn't do it. A rock wouldn't do it.
Even if the glass is laminated?
Yeah, laminated tempered glass. It'll shatter, but it'll stay within the laminate usually.
Well, that's what laminate's for. Is that you don't get cut up with glass if it breaks. Right?
So I wondered after I learned these were called ninja rocks, hey, could I buy these on Amazon? And it turns out you can just buy them on Amazon because
I've heard rumors that you could just like take a spark plug and sort of smash it and take the pieces of the ceramic part.
That is exactly it. Nothing. If you can't buy anything called a ninja rock on Amazon, but you can buy spark plugs for a few bucks each. And yeah, basically just smash a spark plug with a hammer, and all the white pieces that fall out, those are ninja rocks.
Like how hard do you have to throw it?
Not that hard. Like with your arm strength, you could basically carry them in your pocket while you're biking.
Or does that have to throw it?
You gotta throw it. Throw it like, imagine throwing a tiny pebble like it's a baseball.
Okay, so you have to throw it.
Like wing it, like you're trying to skip a rock, about that level of violence.
Right, but like if I just go like, it's not going to do it.
Probably
you need some power. You need some power.
Yeah, but not that much power.
So if this, I've only heard of this. I've never witnessed it. If
it works.
It's really true.
I've done it.
If it's really true, explain to me the physics behind this.
Oh, so the ceramic or alumina, like that type of material, is extremely brittle and extremely hard. It also, if you break it, because it's so brittle, it forms multiple extremely sharp points that are small.
That's true. Okay.
So if you wing it at a piece of tempered glass, those sharp points have a high percentage likelihood of hitting one of those tiny fault lines that causes the tensile strength to explode and have the whole thing shatter. It's the same
because it is so pointy.
Yes.
All of the power goes into that one a very small
pointy.
area.
You need pointy and hard are the key characteristics.
But you might, if you miss, you may have to throw. You might not work every time.
The thing is, when I've done it, it worked every time. And I've seen videos where it just works every time. Like
I'll have to watch on you. Is your thing of the day YouTube video explaining and demonstrating?
Because my thing of the day.
And I don't have to search for one.
I haven't used the slow-mo guys in a long time because I've used them multiple times.
Oh, slow-mo.
Yeah. They uploaded a new video yesterday because there is a new Phantom camera and it can record at up to 800,000 frames per second.
It's a big number.
That is the biggest number. They've never.
Is it black and white? I'm guessing.
Nope, full color.
Wow.
Usually
the ultra high speed ones are black and white only.
So this one can record like high resolution video at higher frame rates than almost any one of the cameras they've ever used before. And if you're
$800,000, $1 per frame.
So if you reduce the vertical resolution but keep the horizontal resolution, you can get this thing all the way up to a little over 800,000 frames a second. And it's funny because the first half of the video is he's like, this fucking camera. Like, look at this. The exposure time is now being measured in nanoseconds. 12 nanoseconds of exposure per frame.
Pretty great.
So he records throwing a piece of a spark plug at some tempered glass, and it's so high frame rate that you actually can see the breaking of the glass moving slowly, which they've never been able to achieve with any camera they've ever had before.
Awesome.
It's really amazing to watch. And of course, they uploaded it in glorious 4K. So this video is less than 10 minutes long and 100% worth watching. In the meta moment, still mostly stuck inside, but it's warm out.
Yep. We were going to do a show Tuesday and we didn't because Rim bailed.
Yep, I bailed.
He was at the vet.
I had to take the pet to the vet. Moogie's fine. He's got to go back to the vet on Monday for a tooth thing. He needs a dental cleaning, and we got to grind down some little spurs on his teeth, but he's doing fine.
Tooth spurs? Can I get some tooth spurs?
You don't want tooth spurs. They hurt a little bit when you chew.
Oh,
We're going to grind them down to get rid of them.
I wanted to grind up things by chewing on them.
You got molars for that. Your molars are good enough.
Yeah, they're okay.
My molars are pretty good at that. But yeah, we'll do that show. Don't worry. We'll review Pokemon Snap. It's just Pokemon Snap 2, like almost exactly.
Also in the meta moment, the book club book is still, the Tale of Genji. It's going to be that for a while, but hopefully not too much longer. We'll see.
Yep. The problem is, even if I start going back to my office in the coming months occasionally, I'm going to be biking because I'm not riding the subway yet, so nothing's changing.
Well, what's changed, I think, is that I'm not watching hockey games. So that is basically, if I'm not doing Geek Nights, I have more free time than I did before, and not losing like a few hours here and there. And also, this hockey season, there were so many games closer together, so I was losing way more time, right?
Yep. But also, it's warm enough for me to just go sit in the park and read, which is something I've been really dying to do.
The balcony I have here compared to the one at my previous apartment is way more usable and comfy.
Yeah.
So if it's warm, it's like I finish eating dinner. It's like, what do I got to do? Oh, I'll go outside and read on my balcony. Why not?
Yep. And while I could also play the Switch out there, I'm switched out right now. I've played enough games on the Switch. I played Pokemon Snap enough to review it. I don't have to play Switch every single night.
People are, I could play games with people, but people don't seem to want to play games that much these days. They want to go where it's warm, right?
Play Overwatch with me.
No.
I'll buy it for you.
No. I don't even have BattleNet installed anymore. I'm trying to cut down, not build up.
And I guess otherwise, stay tuned there's going to be another PAX Online, and there's a high likelihood we'll be doing between 1 and 3 panels for it. So stay tuned on that. And yeah, that's all I got. Follow us on the internet?
Follow us on the internet. We are everywhere. And I just want to remind people, that our forum, specific, we got a Discord going on. We got a forum, we got Twitter, we got YouTube, right? I think our community has become like a little dispersed, right? People are going to the place that they want to be, which is good, right? Go to the place that you want to be. But our forum specifically, right, I think is like not getting, it's still active even after all these years, but it's like its activeness is not increasing.
Well, it's interesting because mostly what I see is forums serve an important purpose, but it's a purpose that a lot of people on the internet don't care about anymore. As if you want to have an asynchronous conversation where you type a lot.
Well, that's true, but I think also there are quite a few people who use our forum as like a platform to like host what would otherwise be like a standalone blog, right? So it's like we got.
And I like that a lot. I actually like. Right. I don't post in our forum a ton because I'm busy, but I read our forum because good stuff gets posted there.
All right, so like imagine, it's like, we got a listener who's big into pro wrestling that we haven't been into since we were kids, right? And when big pro wrestling stuff comes, they make what's basically in this one thread, like a huge ass blog post. I read it even though I don't know or care about pro wrestling that much, right? But I read it anyway. Something big will happen in like, I don't know, Magic the Gathering. And it's like, we don't care about that, but there's a listener who does, and they come and make a huge blog post about it, right? Or, I don't care about Formula One racing as much as I used to, but occasionally something will happen and someone will post a big thing. It's like those people could just have their own blogs or their own Twitter threads and post those things on their own somewhere, but they all post them in the same place. We got a friend who's designing a board game. They make like huge design diary posts all the time, right? It's like,
and I see from the stats, a ton of people read that stuff, even if very few people are posting that stuff.
Right. So it's like if you started your own WordPress blog, how many people would read it, right? If you're not already a popular, famous internet person, probably it'd be hard, right? So, I would recommend if there's something you're doing, that you could make like a big ass posts about, right? It's like I'm posting big ass K-pop posts in there that no one responds to, but I think people are reading.
I read every one. They're fascinating.
I don't care if people are reading them or not, but you could probably get a history of like the last X years of K-pop by reading.
Well, like there's been a thread that I've been enjoying that is just called Songs About Trains that you started, and it just keeps going. And
I finding more songs about trains and posting them in that thread.
My favorite post though was someone who just out of nowhere realized that song that was made famous in the Blues Brothers is about a train.
Sure. So if you're somehow listening to this, I think you belong at least as a lurker in our forum.
It is totally cool to lurk in that forum. Like you don't have to post.
Community.frontrowcrew.com. If you try to make an account there, make sure that when you fill out the registration form, you fill out all the stuff and make it clear to me, who will be seeing your registration application, that you are a real human being, who listens and whatnot, so I don't reject you. And if I do reject you, just email me and that will make it very clear, or, it'll make it clear that you were a real person and I rejected you by accident. But I've never I assume, like, I'm basically not hesitant at all to reject if I have the slightest doubt, because I feel like if I accidentally reject someone, they'll be like, hey, why'd I get rejected? And I'm like, it's a real person.
Yep.
I'll fix that right for you right now. That's never happened. So.
And our Discord is cool. I like our Discord too. I'm trying to make a point of hanging out in there more, even if I don't post a lot because I'm just busy. But the difference between them is the Discord is just people kind of bantering and playing random games, and it's a fun, active place. But like Scott said, the forum is really like there's a lot of content there, and that content's actually pretty good.
The Discord people do use the voice chat a lot and hang out, and they also will stream games they're playing. I've seen people streaming some stuff in there. So
we will eventually, when they add slide and video support to the Discord stage, we will definitely also be doing Geek Nights live in there.
Yep. So
and actually, last thing I'll say, I don't know when we're going to do this, but we're planning at some point to this is something I 100% want to do, is use the Discord stage to do a call-in show, which we never did before, because while we had the technology to do it, the pipeline to do call-in podcasts is a gigantic pain in the ass, And the Discord stage actually makes it really reasonable and easy to do.
Yep. Theoretically.
Yeah. And I want to try it. So stay tuned.
After 15 years, we'll finally do the call-in style radio show.
We won't do it all the time. We're not going to
something that normal old radio stations have been doing since telephones existed.
Yeah, you know how they did it? They had if it was a show with like 2 hosts, they had the third person who dealt with all that shit and had a bunch of technology in front of them.
Actual jobs. Right,
yeah.
anyway.
We're not hiring anyone to work on Geek Nights except like graphic designers and maybe some coders, but stay tuned on that too.
Mm-hmm. All right, so
this was your idea.
Yeah, well, it was my idea that I was against, right? That I knew Rim would be for.
Yeah, that's your.
You know how we have Tech News Roundup, right? But it's all tech news, and I was like, hey, it's Thursday. Let's just do a roundup of things that are not news, not things of the day, right? Because we could use those as news of things of the day. Don't waste them, right? And are not things that could be a Geek Nights show topic, right? But yet, you have something to say, right? That seems to happen quite a bit. Like, I got something to say about something.
Yep.
Right? But yet, it's not like a show topic. It could be like a mini rant, but it isn't necessarily a negative grind my gears style rant. It could just be like, I noticed a thing, and I have something to say about it, and whatever. And I was like, well, if we could, just combine all those into one show.
That got real close to a Seinfeldian... So what's the deal with blah?
We already did a podcast about nothing. We can't do that again.
But it's funny because on the Patreon for a while, and I kind of stopped doing it during COVID in particular, and a little bit before Rim's Rants. I am planning to bring that back. I got to get enough of a backlog
right after the call-in show.
Probably right after the call-in show, actually. But I did that for a while, but what I struggled with was that because that was a scheduled thing, I had to have something to talk about every week, and I had to force it, and I felt like I had to talk about it long enough to make it like a podcast that was worth listening to. Like, go at least 15 or 20 minutes, otherwise, like, who cares? So, it's a lot of things. I have maybe 3 minutes of things to say, but then Scott might have something to say, and it's a lot harder to do that kind of thing when it's just me talking to the void. I feel like I have to lecture and fill the time, as opposed to a normal conversation 2 friends might have about a thing where Scott might have some insight I didn't think of or an anecdote to relate. Kind of like how every now and then me or Scott has had to do a panel by ourselves at a con, and it's way hard to do the kind of panel we do for an hour without someone else to bounce off of. Like, I did Beyond D&D by myself once at a Kineticon, and that was grueling.
All right, so here's an example of something that came to mind where I got something to say, right? So, being a person who has, podcasted, streamed, YouTube videoed, owns lots of cameras and other recording equipment, right? I sort my brain. It's like literally almost anything I do that's not just like everyday stuff or even sometimes everyday stuff. I sort of get into my head the idea like, oh man, I should record that or put it up or make a, video production out of it somehow.
I have forced myself years ago to not live that way because for the first like 5 years we did Geek Nights, that consumed my every thought. Anything I did anywhere was like, I gotta figure out how to turn this into content and put it on Geek Nights, expand the empire.
Right? It's
like it was really fucking me up.
All right, it's like, oh, let's go biking. It's like, man, I should bring a camera and I should make like a little video montage of this bike ride and upload it when I'm done, right? And what I've found is that, maybe if I did that every single time, right, it would be enough content. It actually, I would get better at it from practicing and doing it more. And it would grow an audience and it would there probably could be a return on investment. But the problem is that the effort required in doing it sort of A, takes away from the thing you're actually doing.
Yup.
Right? And B, puts up a barrier to where you might not actually do the thing, right? So like, I'm going to go on this bike ride. Well, now if I'm going to carry all this camera shit, maybe I'm, it's like, fuck it. Let's just stay home, right? Or, all right, well, let's not bike as far because I'm carrying all this shit. Or,
skiing and GoPros.
I'm not going to bike long and get in the zone, right? And concentrate on biking because I keep stopping and doing camera shit all the time.
The GoPro problem is what I've seen some people call that. They get a GoPro And then now, like every time they ski, they think, well, I bought that GoPro. I can't waste it. So they like try to use the GoPro to capture video of skiing, but that's really hard. And it adds a lot of overhead to skiing. I'm a lot happier when I don't bring that GoPro at all, or I bring it and I tell myself in advance, I am only going to bother fucking with this piece of device if something interesting's happening and I want to record this for me.
Yeah, that's
not for you, for me.
Yeah, on my bike, I have a GoPro mount on the front, and when I go on the bike ride, I put the GoPro in there, and I make sure the batteries are charged and the memory card's empty.
Yep.
But other than that, I don't like, turn it on, record the whole ride, swap the memory cards, and swap the batteries constantly because that's a pain in the butt. And, you don't remember it, you don't notice it, it's a big distraction, and you just get a bunch of useless footage.
Yep.
Right? It's like if I need to take photos and I'm on a bike ride, I just use my iPhone, which is actually a better still camera than the GoPro is, at least the GoPro that I have.
Yeah, I have the newest GoPro, and it's actually...
I have GoPro 5.
The newest GoPro is scary good.
It's really good, yeah. The 5 is still 4K 30 or whatever, which is still plenty good enough.
Oh, yeah, I mean, for the things we'll actually use them for to make content, like ReviewCon, like recording ourselves playing a board game, those two GoPros are going to be indispensable.
I think the features, the only feature I've seen that my GoPro does not have that newer ones do have is the ability to stream to your phone, which would then stream to the internet.
Yep. I think I have more slow-mo options, and the low-light performance is better.
You probably have like higher frame rate or whatever,
Yeah, it's stuff like that.
But anyway, the point is just like, it's just a thing that, I want to talk about that, I could produce more content, but I don't because it makes, it's sort of like, sort of like interferes with the thing you're actually doing.
Running. Strava addiction is something people run into too, where like...
I don't have that.
The people who like, well, are going to go for...
I push start, and when I end the bike ride, I push stop.
Yep, but the people who like have to make sure it's right and worry about the stats and like get it every time.
Nope.
Like lately, unless I'm running like 4 or 5 miles, like if I'm doing a short workout, I don't track it. I don't like go into Google Fit and like even type anything in. I don't even bring my phone. And it was so liberating to just walk outside, start running, not think about anything, just enjoy it.
Yep. I basically, if it's
the listener is just like, GoPro FOMO.
Yep. FOMO for sure. Yeah. It's like I have my bike computer, which I only use on like a long bike ride when I need the GPS functionality. And with that, I'm going to be using the bike computer because I want to not get lost. And that will automatically send over to Strava, right? So I don't have to do any special Strava stuff, right? The indoor biking, again, with the Zwift bike MMO, automatically will go to Strava. I don't have to do anything special, right? My Apple Watch, if it senses that I'm exercising, it'll be like, hey, are you walking? And I'll just be like, yes, right? I don't go into it and intentionally poke it. It's just I let everything sort of track passively. If something isn't passively tracked, it's not tracked. I don't care, right? Just go about my business.
But I don't want to get too far in the direction of never making interesting content, because one of the things that did make us sort of get good at this quickly was we were a little hungry to make content, and we did experiment a lot in the early days. It was a lot of effort, and we kind of stopped. Like the last 7 or 8 PAXs we went to, we literally brought the bare minimum equipment to do the bare minimum content creation, and we just enjoyed our PAX. And I've
had this idea like, I got all this stuff. I'll edit the video on my laptop while we're there, and I never did it.
Well, you did it that one time, and it was fun. But we recorded one of those when I was pretty drunk, and it worked out. But in San Antonio that one year, we went around and spent like an hour interviewing those statues and like doing a bunch of fun nonsense.
Only at that PAX out, the first PAX out there.
We did that thing like 3 or 4 times where we'd go through the expo hall and like get a bunch of footage and like put a big video together, and it was fun, but it took so much effort and so few people gave a shit after the first one.
Yep. Well, I don't care how many people give a shit. It's a question of whether I enjoy making.
Well, that's it. I'm focusing right now on, other than baseline Geek Nights, where it's like we still force ourselves to do it, but I'm not gonna try to make content unless it is fun to make that content beyond the baseline content I already make.
Right. If I'm going to be making content, it's like it can't be, it's like I've always thought, oh, it's so great. Video, photo, recording just sort of goes with everything that you're doing, right? If I'm doing some other hobby, it's like, well, I can just combo, right? I can get 2 for 1 deal. But now it's like I still do photo, video stuff as a hobby, but I'm only doing it if it is the primary thing. Like I'm going to go out and do photos now, right? It's photo time. I'm not like, well, I'm doing I don't know, biking, right? Better, carry 20 cameras with me. That's not happening.
Well,
right?
I remember the moment, the one MagFest, when we were like, fuck it, let's not even record our panels. And I packed so little to bring to that con. It was weird.
Yep. All right. So that's an example of a thing. I got something to talk about. It's not a show. It's not,
All right. We'll just alternate back and forth. So I grew this beard because, in my whole life, I was mustached until not too long after RIT, and then I got rid of the mustache. And then I would alternate between clean shaven, stubbly because I'm lazy, and scraggly beard because I'm extra lazy that eventually goes back to clean shaven. Maybe like 4 or 5 times I've grown a beard on purpose, but usually only for a relatively short span of time, then I get rid of it. But I grew a beard during quarantine, and I kind of just kept it, and I actually maintained it. And now I'm in a situation where almost everyone I know who has interacted with me on video chat is constantly telling me that I look better with a beard and I should keep the beard. And there's like this huge pressure of, you look great with a beard, never get rid of it. That is amazing. And
whatever you want to do.
Yeah. And I don't know, I would never thought I'd be the kind of person who would wear a beard because I tended to always like to be pretty clean shaven. And I'm 50-50 on if I'm going to keep the beard after COVID or not.
It's up to you. You can always grow it back too.
I can.
Right?
It takes me
a 90-year-old man. The beard's still gonna grow.
I mean, it takes about 8 days to grow a full beard for me. Like it's a full beard after 8 days. Like wait 8 days, shave the neck. I think the one difference is when I started having a beard longer than a couple weeks, I actually had to go learn how to take care of a beard because it's not actually that intuitive. Like a lot of people want to grow a beard, and the beard ends up not looking the way they want. Sometimes you just lose the genetic lottery, like it's patchy, like you can't do anything about that. Sometimes you got a hair issue where it doesn't work out. But if you can grow a good beard, like you got to learn techniques of like what to do about it, or it'll kind of look bad by default. And I think a lot of people get discouraged because it just looks bad. They don't know why. They don't want to pay someone to fix it. And you actually have to learn to do some things and maybe even buy a little bit of equipment. Like you can't get away with just scissors, most likely.
Yeah, I mean, I know, I do think I actually look better with, some amount of facial hair.
You look pretty good with a beard.
Yeah.
Like a one of those clean cut, like a very stark line beards looks pretty good on you.
Right. The problem is that basically I was just having so many face problems, like, itching and scratching and ingrown hair and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just sort of like, I went the opposite direction during the quarantine.
Yep.
It's like, well, I don't, have all this time not commuting. I can actually shave now, right? I don't more frequently, right? And put lotions on my face or whatever. I tried the beard oils and they didn't really work. So that's really that was my attempt, right? It's like, all right, let me try these beard oils. And I
do a beard oil and a beard balm. I use the beard oil just kind of all the time, and I use the balm if I'm going out or doing a video and I need the beard to like stay nice and like well groomed.
Yeah. It's like it helped a little bit, but it didn't. After a certain point, the beard, when the beard got bigger, it's like, no, your face itches no matter what now. And I was like, oh, fuck this, right? And it's like, this way I don't have any irritation in my face if I just don't have it. And who cares if it looks worse? Whatever. I'd rather not have face irritation.
So the listener was actually asked the question, what special techniques did you have to learn? I had to learn how to make the line, like where does the line go between beard and neck? It's real easy to get that wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I just watched.
There was a YouTube video. Yeah. This thing of the day that taught you where to go.
Yep, I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and that one was the one that was like the good thing of the day thing. But honestly, I just watched like 5 or 6 different YouTube videos, and they all mostly said the same things about how to manage beards, and I just did what they said. And other than I shaved this little bit under my lip so I can play my trumpet.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that's a segue. I've been playing my trumpet a lot during quarantine, and I really want to keep that up. Like, that's one of those things of, I'm never going to make trumpet content or, like, music content really for the internet ever again. Because, like, I'm not going to dedicate myself to making music enough to be good enough to bother sharing, but I do appreciate the hobby where you're not a pro, you're not the most skilled or the most talented, but you do it because it's fun on its own. And
like I said, I just do photography. It's like, and basically mostly gave up on like trying to like make some portfolio site or that kind of nonsense, right? It's
Yep. Like I dump a lot of my photos just in my Google photo timeline, mostly so in the future I can scroll back through it and just see, oh, what was I taking pictures of in like October 2008? Like, oh, I guess I took a lot of, I don't know, Google Glass photos. That must have been when I had the Google Glass.
Yep.
But yeah, playing the trumpet, it's been interesting because it took me a long time, like almost a year, to get all those muscles back to like be able to play it well. And it was frustrating because I was very good, like to the point where I literally almost went to school for music instead of all this tech stuff. And it was frustrating to have been legitimately good at something and be terrible at it when you pick it up again because you have lost muscles. You've lost like physical skills that you need to relearn.
Well, Father Time.
Yeah.
Right? You know, imagine what it feels like to be, I don't know, like Jaromir Jagr, you know, who's playing hockey out in Czechoslovakia or whatever.
I mean, even with like as much as I'm doubling down on running,
Czechoslovakia doesn't exist anymore.
I'm almost 40. I am never going to run a 17-minute 5K again in my life. Like 19 to 20 minutes is the best I'm going to do. And I do not feel great after those 19 minutes in my current body. So, you know, we've talked about this at Geek Nights before. I'm kind of focusing on sports, at least, that I see old people doing a lot. I don't see old mountain bikers. I don't see like too many old people rollerblading seriously. I see a lot of old runners, a lot of old bikers, and a lot of old skiers. So those are the three sports I am doubling down on.
We should quadruple down on shuffleboard then.
I could play some shuffleboard. I like shuffleboard a lot.
Shuffleboard, but the only place to play shuffleboard is that place in Brooklyn that's all fancy for like, you know, there's no like, you know, just like there's no like shuffleboard just in the park.
I like bocce more, to be honest.
There's the bocce you can do in the park over by me.
Yeah.
Right? So,
but actually, what I want to start doing. So if you don't live in New York City, like I used to play tennis. I used to love tennis. The problem with New York City is by law, you can't actually use the New York City municipal tennis courts without a tennis license.
Yep. There's all sorts of bureaucracy around who gets to play tennis and when on the courts because it's a large amount of space that's occupied by only 2 or 4 people.
Yep.
And there's only so many courts, and there's a lot more people that want to use them than there are courts and time on which to play them, especially on weekends. If you want to play, you know, an early afternoon, you might be competing with old people. There's so many people, but
there's also special tennis courts. Like if you bike up the west side, you'll pass a few tennis courts that are special because they're clay. There aren't that many of those.
There's different courts in different places. You know, there's some up in the Bronx, and there's private ones. There's semi-public ones. They're all over different situations.
So as much as I think like want to play, I used to play tennis. Like as much as I want to get back into it, it's too much of a pain in the ass living in New York City. I actually gave up tennis when we left Beacon because in Beacon there's tennis courts. I can just go play at like the high school. So, but wall ball courts are not licensed. You can just use a wall ball court if someone else isn't using it. So,
or racquetball.
Yeah. Well, you can't. Racquetball courts are all indoors and mostly private. Like you got to pay.
Don't they play racquetball out in like McCarran Park in the same area as the wall?
That is not technically racquetball because you need to have all the walls. All sides need to be walls at the place where the lines are, so you can bounce them off the walls, or it's not actually racquetball.
Well, they're playing one wall racquetball.
Yeah, that's not racquetball. That's one of a few different sports, but it's racquetball adjacent. They're all in the same class of sport.
They have rackets and they got the blue rubber ball and they're hitting it against the wall.
Yeah, but that is not racquetball. Racquetball rules are very specific around like how it works.
All right, well.
Have you ever played racquetball?
No, it's an old man game.
Yeah, but it's also a young man game.
Did you say you're wanting to play old man game?
I do. I don't want to play racquetball because I have to pay to join like a gym that has racquetball.
Yeah, you don't want to play pickleball? That's an old man game.
Pickleball sucks ass. It's not fun.
I never even heard of it until relatively recently.
I know. I think on Geek Nights, you were like, pickleball? What the fuck is pickleball? And I was like, how have you never heard of pickleball? We did a whole thing.
No, I heard of it for the first time like maybe 2 years ago.
But what I'm thinking about doing is me and Emily could just do this. There's a bunch of wall ball courts behind us. And while I cannot play racquetball or tennis, we could just volley that blue ball back and forth against that wall, and that would be fun.
I just said one wall racquetball.
But that's not racquetball. That's not a sport. We're just playing volley. We're just volleying. We're not playing a sport with score.
Tell that to the people in McCarran Park. They're playing it way serious.
Yeah. I just want to hit a ball back and forth. It's the equivalent of just play catch.
Okay.
But I dug out, as part of cleaning up, now that we're cleaning stuff up and donating things after COVID, I dug out my old baseball mitt. I had a catcher's mitt and just a regular mitt. The catcher's mitt I threw away because it was rotten, because this thing is from like the 20s. And my other catching mitt, like my regular old like outfielder's mitt, had also rotted to nothing. So it was not salvageable. Just threw it away.
Mm-hmm.
But rackets don't really go bad. So all my old rackets are fine. So that is what I'm going to do in that part.
Well, I mean, they don't go bad, but sometimes, depending on the age,
the string tension will reduce.
Well,
or
that's true.
they are illegal by
racket,
modern
not
standards.
A solid piece of wood racket, but technologies will change, and then the racket could be like, there's, remember, like back in the day, tennis rackets looked almost like, badminton rackets do now, right?
Right.
It's like those one, it's like, yeah, you might have one that's still good, but it's.
I threw away. I had some racquetball rackets that were like from the late 60s. I got rid of those. Those things were terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that's how I can get my racket sport craving done and scratch that itch without having to deal with the whole New York City licensing system or some private club that has racquetball courts.
Mm-hmm. So just something else, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that's been bothering me lately, I don't know how many people know about this, right? Is we got this problem, especially where I live, the fart car problem, right?
I got a lot to say about that.
There's a lot going on here, right?
It's it's a specifically bad problem here because we live next to the Queensboro Bridge. They are going back and forth over that bridge all night, every fucking night, and they have been for like 6 months.
Right. So there's certain people who they enjoy, and I actually respect, as a hobby, right? Driving, tricking out your car, right? No different than customizing your computer to make it cool and go faster, right?
Yep.
Totally awesome.
Well, to the extent of I am super not cool with the people who disable the pollution controls on their car to do that.
Yes, I'm also super not cool with people who trick out their computer and then mine Bitcoins, right?
Yep.
And doing damage with their hobby is not cool, no matter how cool your hobby is.
The fart cars are almost all technically illegal because they've almost all removed their muffler and replaced it with nothing.
Indeed. There's also people who are riding all sorts of dirt bikes and ATVs and other sorts of vehicles that are not street legal, right? But it's like, riding that vehicle on itself as a hobby is totally cool, right? Just you're doing it on these public streets in a way that is, dangerous and hazardous to others.
It is dangerous. Seriously, you should see some of the shit that I witness with these kids on a pretty regular basis, because I run a lot, I bike a lot. But lately, full-on ATVs are just screaming down like separated bike paths all the time.
Right. It's also very noisy and disturbing the whole neighborhood, right?
They're also really polluting because most of those things are two-stroke engines, which arguably should be banned in the U.S. Two-stroke engines, if you drive a two-stroke engine vehicle for a couple hours, you probably exude more material pollution than an actual SUV being driven regularly.
Well, I don't know about that, but
I found multiple stats on that. I'll dig one up maybe.
But the point is, right?
Because two-strokes don't have pollution controls.
So we have this problem in that people are doing a thing that I think should be able to be done. There's validity in the thing, right? Enjoying that hobby. So you don't want to just ban it outright, right? Especially, someone who really cares. They tricked out their car. Actually, if I saw their car, maybe I'd think it was cool, right? It's like, I don't just be like, you can't do this anywhere ever, right?
Well, they're doing something that is antisocial.
Yes, they're doing it, but they're enjoying this valid hobby in a way that is damaging and disturbing to other people and causing, external harms. And they don't.
Well, I grew up in Michigan. People did that stuff all the time. But if they came through your neighborhood, it's out not a dense city. Maybe a few hundred people hear you, and then you're gone. In New York, if you drive one of those things around in Queens, several 100,000 people were woken up by that, possibly.
And it's not just one's going by right now. And it's not just a few people. It's lots and lots of people.
It's been a trend during COVID. police. There's a lot like we're not saying we support the police. Like, don't even think we're going down this road.
That aspect of it next.
But the police in New York City, partly in reaction to the Black Lives Matter protests and partly in reaction to COVID, stopped enforcing a lot of traffic rules.
They never enforced.
They enforced this one a little bit, and
Barely.
now because now like they don't enforce it at all. And the number of people doing it has been rising steadily for over 6 months.
I don't think enforcement would decrease it anyway, even if they did enforce it, right?
They did. I remember I saw them writing a ticket to a dude who had a motorcycle on the Queensboro bike path once, pre-COVID.
Okay. One time. Great.
Yeah. Nowadays, like I'll be running over that and a full size.
Don't discourage speeding. Right?
No,
It's like,
but before this past summer, I don't think I would encounter a full-size motorcycle on the bike path, except maybe once every several years, and it was like a crazy event. Now, I am passed by a gas-powered motorcycle on the Queensboro Bridge bike path every single weekend during my run.
Yep.
Full-size motorcycle.
All right. So what can be done? What can be done about this, right? So I just got through the explaining how enforcement. Well, even if you enforce, right, you're not going to decrease the behavior significantly, most likely, and you're going to cause a lot of, it's just harm that's not gonna. It's eye for an eye, right?
Because enforcement in the U.S.
Most of the people doing this activity are not white people. They are young people of color. Most of the people who are doing this, right, almost exclusively, right? So, but it's like, yes, they're misbehaving also. But the only body we have that can do enforcement is police.
That's not going to
Not only if you got the police to try to enforce these laws, would it not solve the problem? It also would just cause more harm to the people in those communities who don't need any more harm done to them, right? So we need to come up with some other solution.
And I don't know what to do about it. So one thing that's been happening in the last few months, this is a new thing, but I'm seeing it a lot, is they'll take the ATVs and the dirt bikes to a park, like the Queensbridge Park or the Randall's Island. They're doing it a lot.
One time
I see it every time I run now. And they'll just tear around and tear up the grass and drive around on the grass for hours and pretty much only leave if someone comes and harasses them. Like, eventually a cop car comes in the horizon and they leave and go to a different park and keep doing it. So all the baseball fields are torn up with dirt bike tracks now.
Right. So my idea to fix this, which is obviously something that will never happen ever, is this, right? So obviously you don't want to chase people, and the police actually have a policy of not chasing people because it actually creates a more dangerous situation, especially in a city. I think that, you always see like videos of car chases in highways in like Florida or whatever. I think they shouldn't do that either. Chasing people just makes more danger. Don't do that. Is that you should just chill. And they're not hard to find. You can see these people. They want to be seen, right? Check out my cool car. Just video them from somewhere, right? It's like you see a fart car. You can see it. There's the license plate. Right? It's like, there it is. It's just chilling at the stoplight. And then it's going to go. It's going to, do a little burnout and go to the next stoplight. Just identify it, right? Sit in a few places around town. Just chill and just gather lots and lots of, identifying. Be like, oh, that car clearly has no muffler. Write down the license plate, right?
But two, with that data, do not have police as they exist today with guns in any way be involved in what gets done with that data.
No. Then take that information and just go to, right? Those people live somewhere. They're keeping that car. So they're not driving it all the time, right? They're keeping that car somewhere, right? The car is street illegal. Right? It's street illegal. So we shouldn't allow that car on the street, period. Right? It's not legal to be on the street. Just go to where the car is and just take the car. Just take it. Be like, it's not street legal. We're not going to allow it on the street. Bring a truck. Put this, you can't drive it somewhere, right? Put it up on the truck and take it away. Doesn't matter if the person's there or not. Just fucking tow that shit. And don't tow it to the impound lot where the person can get their car back. No, they lose the car, right? It's like, you can't have this. It is an illegal item. It is now confiscated.
So the problem is, it is technically not illegal to own, only to drive on a public street.
Well, you could change the law.
Case in point,
but
I could own a dirt bike. I could put the dirt bike in my car, drive it somewhere it's legal, and then drive it.
Right. So what I think what you could do is, to sort of be like, okay, we've taken the car, right? What are we going to do with this, right? We don't want to sell it because then someone's going to drive it again.
Modify it so it's not street illegal and then sell it.
Don't just modify it back. That's pointless, right? What we should do is we should build a cool racetrack place for all the cool people to enjoy legitimately and perhaps more safely the hobby of driving cool cars and motorbikes around. Make like a fucking paradise.
That is how most cities solve the problem of skateboarders ruining all the masonry. Just make skate parks.
Right. It's like Germany has like fucking Nürburgring. Like it's like where they have F1 races, but you can just go there and drive. It's like we have some places like that. But
you can go to like Lime Rock or whatever. I've been to some of those places.
Free public one. There's no free public racetrack, right? That you could just go, right? And even if we did have one, it certainly wouldn't be big enough to handle all these. It's so popular, right? But we should make a huge out in Long Island, somewhere right where we hate. Build it, replace a golf course, right? Yep. Make it that big, as big as a golf course.
Make a really accessible free buses and transportation. Make it easy for New York people to get to it.
When you take someone's car, right? You should give them an unlimited Metro card, right? And all sorts of other transportation,
like free city bike, free Metro card.
Right, that might be their transportation that you just confiscated, so you need to sort of compensate them for that, right? Maybe even give them the cheapest car that's not a illegal car, a car that we wouldn't want to modify because it's so uncool.
Here's your 2012 Chevy Cruze Eco.
Yeah, right, something like that. People would figure out a way to modify them. But bring all the cool cars to the car paradise, right? And then be like, hey, your car is in a garage at the car paradise. You can come there and drive it all around the racetrack all you want, right? Like, just come on down. Your car is waiting for you. But there's a wall around the place, and you can't get any cars out of there. They're just stuck in there, right? The end. They don't leave. You built a race car. It stays at the racetrack. You can never take it out of the racetrack.
Here's the one hard mode. Most of these things are not only not street legal, they don't have license plates. They're just a dirt bike.
That's the dirt bikes are the unidentified dirt bikes are the problem. You're going to have to, the identification, you're going to have to see the person who's on it and identify them. But
that starts getting into facial recognition problems. The other problem is
there's so many problems there. But
I was reading about the
cars are a significant portion. So just reducing those would help a great deal.
It would. America has a problem where we still cannot go back to the old way or even the current way, but when police officers were not armed and would pull people over or interact with people to confiscate a car, violence against the people who tried to do that was common.
Yep, indeed.
Very common. But this gets into something I think about a lot that's adjacent to this. The New York City street speed limit, if you're not on a special road like the FDR, is 25. Everywhere, unless there's an exception. Cops should not be able to pull anyone over for speeding in New York City because cops pulling people over is a big part of how they fuck with people who should not be fucked with. Mm-hmm. But we should have enforcement of that speed limit. My idea has always been there should be speed cameras and the police. Yeah. And any car that gets
24/7.
Yeah. And any car, no matter what, anywhere in New York City, if it's on one of those streets and it hits 27 miles an hour, you get mailed a ticket.
Yeah.
Absolute 100% enforcement of that speed limit, no exceptions.
And if you pass 3 cameras, 3 tickets.
Yep.
Right. If you go 60 and you somehow get through 3 different cameras identify you as speeding, well, you were speeding 3 times.
Maybe it's a common sense, the speed limit's 25, set it to 30. It only does the ticket if you get above 30. For more than 2 seconds.
Scaled based on what you can afford, et cetera, right?
Yeah, rich people should hurt a rich person to get that ticket.
Right. The main point here is that, look, it's we have this problem of fart cars, right? Ruining.
And everybody, the majority of New Yorkers want to deal with this problem because it is
only the people who aren't the only people who like the fart cars are on the fart cars.
Yep.
Right? Every single other person does not like them. Maybe some kid thinks they're cool.
And I cared a lot less about this kind of thing when we lived outside of the city, but it's so dense here, and it's hard to express to you out there if you don't live in New York how much of a problem this has become just in the last few months.
Right. So the point is that look, it's every solution we try to come up with, right? It's well, we can't because, right, these other things. And it's you look and you see the root, right, is the car culture and the gun culture of the United States, right? This is actually just an offshoot of that. If we solve our general car problem, right, in that, if we destroy car culture itself and, like the same way that like Amsterdam or the Netherlands did, our roads won't be conducive to fart cars.
So this actually gets into something really...
If we ban guns and don't have a stupid Second Amendment, then you could enforce things against people without having to shoot them or worry about them shooting you.
So this gets to a far more fundamental problem.
Like confiscate someone's car, right?
This is something that bothers me a lot. I guess we can end on this because we made a plenty long show. But that all gets to a fundamental problem in America is that at all levels of our government, we have minoritarian rule. Guns are a good example. The vast majority of Americans want strict gun controls. A near majority of Americans want to get rid of the Second Amendment. Yet, somehow, we can't make any gun rules. Not even the ones that like 80% of Americans support.
The majority of New Yorkers probably want to get rid of fart cars, but we can't.
But the problem is the way our government is set up, the minority of people, mostly rural people, have the majority of the power by the way the system is designed. That is a fundamental problem that we can't get past. If the majority opinion on a lot of things were possible to be expressed in our government, I'm not saying things would be perfect because our majority also has a lot of stupid ideas, but it would mean that we could have earnest debates and try things. Right now, because of this minoritarian rule, we can't try anything for almost any problem.
Right, but anyway,
we can't change anything.
There is like a lot of people, privileged people act like or believe that like, oh, I don't care about politics. It doesn't affect you, whatever. And then they get mad about something like fart cars. And it's like, guess what? Right?
It's all the same problem.
And the filibuster are not unrelated.
Yep.
Right?
But here's what bothers me. This is like the zoomed in like wonk thing that bothers me. I don't know if there is a legal way to fix that. Because fundamentally, the U.S. Senate holds all the power, and because of the filibuster rules, you need 60 senators to agree to pass literally anything, and you need 50 senators, minimum, to agree to change the filibuster rule to even force someone who wants to make it 60 to have to stand there and piss their pants. We cannot get 50 senators who would agree to change the rules of the filibuster so that you have to actually piss your pants if you want to do it.
No, you could do it with evil.
What?
Evil.
Evil. So the only ways to change that would be
do it by waiting for just waiting. We just wait long enough and hope that enough people die.
No, because demographic trends are actually putting more power in states that have such a margin toward Republicans in the Senate that Democrats cannot feasibly or plausibly win a statewide election in those states. Gerrymandering doesn't even fix that because the gerrymandering is at the level of the state boundaries themselves, and the structure of the Senate is defined in the Constitution. Amending the Constitution requires a majority of the states. The majority of states are red and there's no possible way to make them blue in the foreseeable future.
Something will happen eventually. If shit gets bad enough, people will get mad enough,
or they won't, because the majority of people are mad, but the people who are mad are concentrating themselves in blue states where it's better.
Yeah, well, if it doesn't get if it
eventually you just have 70 Republican senators who will just make things worse for everyone, and no one can stop them.
Yeah, but then the people who live in the blue states will get mad.
But what do they do? What are we gonna do? Secede?
They could. Who knows what they'll do?
I'm just saying that the system.
Far enough in the future, it won't be.
All I'm saying is that the system, as it's designed, there is literally no legal path to fixing that fundamental problem right now. I don't know what to do about that. I don't have an answer. I don't have an idea other than changing it. But the only way to change it is to use it.
Try really hard and win some elections that you believe are unwinnable.
We would have to win 11 new Senate seats in red states, statewide elections.
Yeah.
And not lose any of the ones we already have. Georgia is going to be hard to keep because we didn't pass the Voting Rights Act. We didn't pass the Voting Rights Act because the Senate.
No, do something. Try something.
Try what? That's what I don't. I can't find. I can't.
That's what I don't understand. Right? Is like these senators are actual human beings, right? It's like Some of them are in favor and understand how
No,
important
50 of
it
them are evil. 50 of them realize that if any of these rules change, their party loses power forever.
But I mean, they're still a human being. There's something that they care about, right?
Apparently not.
It's like
At least for that 50.
Go and talk to them, and it's like just figure out, figure out something. There's got to be something you can do, right? It's like even someone like me, right? Think about it the reverse direction, right? Let's say I was a senator, and they said, Scott, we want you to vote for yes guns good, right?
Yep.
It's like, is there a way that they could get me to vote for guns good?
But it's partisan. The thing you're asking them...
It would be really, really hard to get me to vote for guns good, but I'm not going to lie and say it's impossible.
But
right?
you would need...
There's some way they could get me to do it, right? So fucking figure it out. They're clear. I see all these people, senators, they're just tweeting. It's like, stop tweeting. Go talk to the other senators.
They have. So the thing is, they have
constantly.
constantly. And the answer has been so far, there is nothing that will convince any Republican senator to vote to make elections fair, because if they did that, many of them would not win re-election. And if any of them don't get re-election, all of them lose power. So there's nothing you could do because you're literally asking them to vote to permanently remove themselves from power forever.
Okay, fine. I mean, so Scott, I'm a senator, right?
Yep.
And they say, Senator Scott, we want you to vote on a thing that will make you no longer a senator. Okay, well, there must be something in it for me to compensate for the fact that I'm going to lose now.
They're all already rich, so...
Yeah, it's like fucking work it out, right? There's got to be something,
So one fundamental thing that's gone on in politics, because I know you don't pay attention to like Senate procedure and all that kind of stuff, but what's mostly been happening now is Democrats have been constantly trying to talk to them about this, and their answer is always, there is nothing. Literally, we do not care.
No, there has to be something. They're a human being. They have a life. There's something in their personal life. They must have desires, goals, feelings, right? You need to figure them out. Send a PI after them.
So, but a lot of them, their desires and goals are pass harmful legislation to hurt people that they perceive as their enemies.
Okay, fine. We'll agree to pass this harmful legislation that hurts your enemies as long as you vote yes on this voting one.
No, because if they vote yes on the voting one, it is guaranteed, and they know that all the harm you did can now be undone.
Try to fool them, right? They're still a human being. They're not geniuses, right? You could try something, right? Work harder, right? Is your only job.
But even the ones who are retiring and not running for re-election are still refusing to even talk.
You might be able to fool some of these people. Are so old, you might be able to fool them with the rabbit season, duck season on the yay nay, right? It's like
no, because the party whip actually tells them here's what to vote, and they just do it.
Right? Yeah, maybe they see if you can fool them.
In fact, the one time Democrats did try to fool them once. It was several years ago. There was a bill that they were all voting for.
Second, to invert all the language in the yes/no.
They did something like that. This was crazy. So basically, the Republicans had some bill that would have been so bad that it would have caused a problem for them too. But they wanted to performatively vote for it so they could say the Democrats voted against it, even knowing that if it passed, it would destroy things. The Democrats all voted for it suddenly at the last second, and it was about to pass. And they had to scramble to change all their votes to no. So now you had a situation where the bad bill had no Republicans voting for it and a bunch of Democrats voting for it.
Okay, I'm just saying.
But it didn't work in the end. It didn't actually pass because they...
try harder.
You can't try harder because guess what? The rules of the Senate are controlled by the Senate. You need a vote of 50 people to change the rules.
Point is, right, the Republicans do all sorts of shady tricks, right? And somehow those shady tricks work. Do the same shady tricks.
No, there's the answer to that simple.
Better at shady tricks than they are.
The answer to that is simple. They're only doing shady tricks to prevent things from being passed. They never do shady tricks to pass anything. They only do shady tricks to not let bills go forward.
All right, so do shady tricks to prevent any of their stuff from getting passed.
We do. You realize the Senate has done nothing since the election because they can't because of this.
Mm. There has to be work.
The Senate has literally done nothing. No bill that has been passed by the House is going to get to the floor of the Senate at any point.
At the very least, right, whether it's true that they're really trying every last trick in the whole book and the tricks just aren't working, it's just so difficult, right? At least make it look like you're trying, right? they're not looking like they're trying every last dirty trick in the book, right? So at least make it look like you are, so that we can have some more confidence in you that you are being, putting in the full effort, right? They're not making it look like they're trying.
Well, at any rate, we've gone on for an hour and 20 minutes, so I think this was a good topic for a show.
Okay.
What we just did, this was one of the longer Geek Nights in recent history.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to go eat food.
All right, me too. I had like 10 more things